At the beginning of the story, a young teacher enters a classroom filled with unruly boys. She greets them with a cheerful good morning, but none of them respond. Instead, they ignore her completely, making her feel awkward and out of place. Determined to assert control, she sternly asks everyone to stand up. The students, however, continue to disregard her. She raises her voice, commanding silence. Suddenly, the boys rise from their seats, but not to obey. They stand menacingly, their collective energy turning threatening. One boy boldly throws a ball at her, but unbeknownst to them, this teacher isn't ordinary. She is a former Yakuza commander. With lightning reflexes, she catches the ball midair and hurls it back, hitting the boy with such force that he is sent flying across the room. Shock ripples through the group, yet they still fail to take her seriously. Seeing this, the teacher coolly threatens to deduct marks from their grades. This unexpected move leaves the boys stunned, their rebellious demeanor giving way to compliance. Just as the classroom settles down, the scene abruptly transitions to another setting. In the next scene, we see an airport bustling with media activity. A plane has just landed, but it's no ordinary arrival. It has been hijacked. More than 100 passengers are trapped inside, and the hijackers have issued demands, $100 million in cash and a helicopter to ensure their escape. Outside the airport, special forces stand ready to storm the plane, awaiting the final order. High-ranking officials monitor the tense situation, their nerves stretched thin. Inside the plane, fear grips the passengers, except for one girl. Her name is Yen Kami. While others cower in silence, she wakes up from a nap, seemingly unfazed by the chaos. Oblivious to the tension, she begins mumbling to herself. The passengers around her frantically try to hush her, but Yen pays them no mind. Instead, she grows louder, catching the attention of the hijackers. One of them approaches her, gun in hand, aiming to intimidate. But Yen doesn't flinch. Instead of fear, her face shows irritation, as though the hijackers are a mere inconvenience. Furious, the armed men rush toward her. The sound of gunfire suddenly erupts inside the plane, sending shockwaves through the crowd and alerting the special forces outside. As the tactical team prepares to breach the aircraft, the exit door unexpectedly swings open. As the soldiers cautiously approached the plane, they were stunned by the sight before them. The hijackers were on their knees, completely subdued, and standing behind them was Yen Kami. She had single-handedly defeated the armed criminals. The entire nation watched this extraordinary scene unfold live on television. At first, people suspected that Yen was one of the hijackers and that this might be a trick. Yen quickly clarified her innocence, and her heroic actions instantly went viral. The media praised her bravery, and her name was celebrated across the country. In the next scene, we see Yen Kami back at home with her family. Her household consisted entirely of men, brothers, uncles, and her grandfather, and Yen was the only female. The family threw a small celebration to honor her bravery and patriotism. They expressed how proud they were of her. It was during this celebration that a family secret was revealed. Yen was no ordinary woman. She was the heir to a Yakuza clan, having been raised by her grandfather after her parents' tragic deaths. Despite their background, the family kept their Yakuza identity hidden from the outside world. Yen herself lived a double life. By day, she was a high school math teacher, and by night, she remained connected to her family's clandestine legacy. She ensured her Yakuza ties remained a secret from her students and colleagues. The next day at school, Yen overheard her co-workers enthusiastically discussing the recent hijacking rescue. They marveled at the mysterious woman who had saved the passengers. Just as Yen started feeling uneasy, the principal called her aside. He warned her to avoid drawing too much attention to herself through such high-profile events, as it could lead to her true identity being exposed. Yen assured him that she would remain discreet in the future. Later that day, a new trainee teacher, Odagiri, arrived at the school. To Yen's surprise, Odagiri was one of her former students from high school. Delighted to see her old student following in her footsteps, Yen welcomed him warmly. However, her enthusiasm dampened when Odagiri admitted that he became a teacher not out of passion, but because he couldn't find another job. Yen encouraged him to take his role seriously, but her disappointment lingered. In her next class, Yen introduced Odagiri to her students. Unfortunately, Odagiri struggled to command their respect. The students ignored him just as they often did with Yen. Following school protocol, Yen invited the students to the schoolyard to formally meet Odagiri. However, not a single student showed up, leaving Yen embarrassed in front of her former student. 5 students, led by a boy named Ryan, were lounging on the school rooftop. Ryan and his friends were suspicious of Odagiri's sudden return to their school as a teacher. They knew him from his earlier days as a mischievous troublemaker and wondered what his true motives might be. In another scene, a group of Yen's former students gathered at a cafe for lunch. They were gossiping when 2 boys burst in with surprising news. They had seen Yen with Odagiri. The group speculated wildly, assuming Odagiri was Yen's boyfriend. This idea shocked them. They had never imagined Yen, their strict and seemingly no-nonsense teacher, could have a romantic relationship. As they debated, Yen entered the cafe with Odagiri for lunch. The group panicked, trying to hide their faces. When Yen noticed them, she walked over to greet her former students and introduced Odagiri as the school's new teacher. Relieved that Odagiri wasn't her boyfriend, the group quickly shifted to teasing Yen, joking that she could never attract someone like him. Yen felt hurt by their comments and began to scold them, but Odagiri gently intervened, calming the situation. After calming down from the earlier teasing at the cafe, Yen Komi decided to treat her former students to food, using a light-hearted excuse. This act of generosity delighted everyone, lifting the mood. As they ate and chatted, they realized how much time had passed since their graduation. Each shared their life stories, what they had achieved and struggled with since leaving school. One of the boys admitted that he had never believed Yen Komi would stick with teaching. He thought she would quit early, but now he was amazed to see how successful she had become, unlike many of them. This comment made Yen Komi emotional and a little angry, as it brought back memories of how much she had fought to prove herself. The group quickly tried to console her, and the conversation moved on to lighter topics. Ryan and his friends were walking along a roadside when a motorbike gang appeared. The gang began bullying and harassing them, demanding their money. Just as things escalated, Ryan arrived and firmly told the gang to back off. The gang ignored him, leading to a heated confrontation. Despite being underestimated, Ryan fought back skillfully, managing to defeat them. As they fled, the gang members threatened to return and take revenge. That evening, Yen Komi invited Odagiri to her home for dinner. She introduced him to her family, proudly sharing that it had always been her dream to welcome a student into her home. The atmosphere was warm and cheerful, and Yen Komi drank a little too much in her excitement, eventually falling asleep at the table. While she rested, Odagiri spoke with Yen Komi's grandfather. The old man revealed that Odagiri's decision to become a teacher was largely influenced by Yen Komi. Although she could sometimes seem clueless, her dedication and life lessons during high school had inspired him to work hard and pursue a meaningful career. The next day, on her way to school, Yen Komi bumped into 2 of her former students. Known for their mischievous antics during their school days, they were now changed individuals. They shared how they had turned their lives around and were leading better lives. Their growth filled Yen Komi with pride. Later, Yen Komi attended a motivational program where a man was giving a speech. As she looked closer, she realized his face bore a striking resemblance to her ex-lover. Her heart raced momentarily, but she soon discovered that he was Soo Chan, Japan's richest man and a highly influential IT entrepreneur. Soo Chan was also running for governor to expand his influence. Impressed by his achievements, Yen Komi publicly declared her support for his campaign, a move that significantly boosted Soo Chan's popularity. Back at school, a sudden commotion erupted as the motorbike gang reappeared, surrounding the school. This gang, known as Black Skull, was notorious as one of Japan's most dangerous criminal organizations. They were here to exact revenge on Ryan. Their threatening presence caused widespread fear among the teachers and students. The principal, panicked, called the police for help. Hearing the police sirens, the gang retreated temporarily but not before vowing to return for Ryan. In the aftermath, the principal summoned Ryan and his friends to his office. Furious about the trouble they had brought to the school, he scolded them severely, warning them about the potential consequences of their actions. The principal demanded that Ryan and his friends explain every detail of their fight with the motorcycle gang. The boys explained that the gang had approached them, demanded money, and attacked them when they refused. Ryan had stepped in to protect them. Despite their claims, the principal was skeptical. However, Yen Komi stepped in to defend her students, stating firmly that they were telling the truth. "You can see honesty in their eyes," she said. Reluctantly, the principal dropped the matter, reasoning that it was pointless to provoke a dangerous gang further. When Yen Komi expressed her dissatisfaction with his decision, the principal warned her that if her students caused any more trouble, she would lose her job. Later, in the classroom, Ryan and his friends sat quietly, feeling guilty. They realized Yen Komi had risked her job to protect them, and they didn't want to cause her any more trouble. Ryan made up his mind to settle the issue with the gang once and for all. Despite his friends' protests, he headed for the Black Skull Gang's hideout alone. Not long after, Yen Komi entered the classroom with Odajirai and discovered Ryan was missing. When she learned where he had gone, she became furious. "How could you let him go alone? Why didn't you stop him?" She scolded his friends. Then, with a determined look, she turned to leave. Before going, she reminded Ryan's friends, "If you're truly his friends, stand by him, no matter what." At the gang's hideout, Ryan confronted the Black Skull members. He boldly warned them to stay away from his school and challenged their leader to a one-on-one fight. The gang leader laughed and dismissed the challenge. Instead, the gang members surrounded Ryan and began beating him mercilessly. Just when it seemed Ryan was overwhelmed, the hideout's front wall suddenly shattered, and Yen Komi made an explosive entrance. With a commanding voice, she warned the gang to stop. Ignoring her, the members attacked, but they had underestimated her. Yen Komi fought back with incredible skill, taking them down one by one. Despite her efforts, the sheer number of gang members began to overwhelm her. At that moment, Odajirai arrived to back her up. Together, they fought off the gang, defeating them so thoroughly that the members fled in fear. Ryan's friends, who had followed Yen Komi's advice, arrived shortly after the fight. They were stunned to see what had unfolded. Ryan, still catching his breath, looked at Yen Komi in awe and asked, "How can a normal teacher fight like that?" Yen Komi smiled and simply replied, "Because I care about my students. No matter what, I'll always stand up for you." The next morning, a significant change swept through the classroom. Ryan and the other boys had a newfound respect for Yen Komi. For the first time, they stood up when she entered the room and greeted her warmly with a unified good morning, Sensei. Yen Komi smiled, feeling that her efforts had finally earned their trust and admiration. Yen Komi was overjoyed that her students had finally started respecting her. However, the next day at school, a group of policemen arrived, leaving her concerned. At first, she thought they were there because of the previous day's fight with the Black Skull Gang. To her surprise, the officers explained that they were searching for a student named Sean, who was suspected of being involved in drug trafficking. Yen Komi immediately defended Sean. "That's impossible. Sean is one of our brightest students," she exclaimed. But the officers informed her they had found Shan's wallet at a crime scene connected to drug delivery and that he had been evading them since the previous night. Before leaving, the police warned that if anyone saw Sean, they should report it immediately. Yen Komi was troubled by the news. She couldn't believe Sean could be involved in such illegal activities and felt there had to be more to the story. Determined to uncover the truth and protect her student, she decided to find Sean before the police did. Yen Komi encountered some of Shan's friends, who were also searching for him. They decided to split up into groups to cover more ground. Despite spending the entire day searching, none of them could find any trace of him. Finally, Sean appeared in the story. Injured and scared, he was hiding under a bridge when Yen Komi's call came through on his phone. Hesitant and fearful of putting her in danger, Sean chose not to answer and disconnected the call. Moments later, a police car passed by, prompting him to hide deeper under the bridge. That evening, as Odajirai was leaving the school, he heard faint noises coming from a classroom. Curious, he went to investigate and discovered Sean hiding there. Recognizing him, Odajirai calmed him down and contacted Yen Komi and the others. Soon, Yen Komi and a group of students arrived at the school. "Why didn't you answer my call?" Yen Komi asked firmly but gently. Sean looked at the ground, ashamed. "I didn't want to involve you or anyone else," he replied. After calming him down, Sean explained everything. He had recently taken a job as a delivery boy to earn money for his sister's school fees. One night, he was asked to deliver several packages. Unaware of their contents, he complied. During the delivery, a gunshot startled him, causing one of the packages to fall and break. At first, the packages seemed to contain ordinary idols, but when they shattered, hidden packets of drugs were revealed. Before he could process what was happening, the goons who had given him the delivery turned on him. They began beating him, accusing him of jeopardizing their operation. Thankfully, the police arrived, causing the goons to flee. In the chaos, Sean ran as well, but his wallet accidentally fell near the drugs. The police found the wallet and had been searching for him since. Yen Komi listened intently, her face growing more serious. "Why didn't you come to me for help?" she asked. Sean explained that he didn't want to cause trouble or bring danger to his friends or teachers. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Yen Komi reassured Sean. "You've done nothing wrong, and I'll make sure you're cleared of this. Trust me." She then instructed Sean and his friends to stay at her house for the night, ensuring his safety from both the police and the goons. Later that night, Yen Komi called in her family's men, utilizing their vast network to investigate the drug trafficking ring. They worked quickly, and by the next morning, they had uncovered the necessary information. The investigation revealed a shocking truth. Sachin, a widely respected motivational speaker and successful businessman, was the mastermind behind the drug trafficking operation. Known for his inspiring speeches and public influence, Sachin had used his wealth and government connections to build a criminal empire hidden behind his philanthropic image. Yen Komi was outraged. Despite the risks, she vowed to expose Sachin's crimes. Overhearing this, Sung and his friends decided to take action themselves, determined to protect Yen Komi from danger. The next day, while Sachin was hosting a high-profile seminar being broadcast live, Sung and his friends infiltrated his headquarters to find evidence. They discovered a room filled with boxes of drugs, but before they could act, they were caught by Sachin's guards. As the guards prepared to attack, Yen Komi and Odagirai arrived at the headquarters. Yen Komi, with her unmatched skills, quickly defeated the guards, protecting Sung and his friends. Sachin was on stage delivering an impassioned speech, promising to eradicate unemployment and improve the city if elected governor. His words captivated the audience, who had no idea of the truth. In a dramatic turn, Yen Komi stormed the seminar, interrupting the live broadcast. She exposed Sachin's involvement in the drug trade, presenting undeniable evidence. At the same time, one of her students, working with the broadcast team, live-streamed footage of the drug-filled room. The country watched in shock as Sachin's carefully crafted image crumbled. His supporters fled the seminar in disgust. Furious, Sachin ordered his men to eliminate Yen Komi, but she stood her ground. A fierce fight ensued as Sachin's guards attacked. Despite being outnumbered, Yen Komi, with Odagirai's help, fought valiantly. Outside the venue, the police arrived in force, drawn by the live broadcast. Ryan and his friends, worried for Yen Komi, tried to enter, but the police held them back. Inside, Yen Komi defeated the last of Sachin's guards. The police stormed in just as she overpowered Sachin himself, arresting him and his remaining men. The event became national news. Yen Komi's bravery inspired widespread admiration, and the evidence against Sachin ensured he would face justice. Back at school, her students greeted her with respect and gratitude, shouting a collective "Good morning, Sensei." Yen Komi smiled, knowing she had not only saved her students but also made a meaningful difference in their lives and society. Yen Komi returned to her classroom, proud of her role as a teacher and protector. Her journey proved that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage and determination could bring about justice. As Sachin faced the crushing weight of his exposed crimes, he pulled out a gun, pointing it at Yen Komi. He blamed her for destroying his life and all he had built. However, Yen Komi, unfazed, calmly advised him to surrender. She shared heartfelt words about the choices we make and the possibility of redemption. Her sincerity and conviction struck a chord in Sachin, bringing him to tears. At that moment, the special forces arrived, prepared to eliminate Sachin as a threat. But Yen Komi stepped in, stopping them from shooting. She explained that Sachin had shown signs of remorse and deserved a chance to atone for his crimes. The police heeded her words, and Sachin was peacefully taken into custody. News of Yen Komi's heroics spread like wildfire across the nation. By the next day, she had become a household name, celebrated as a hero. At school, her colleagues, including the principal, praised her courage and dedication. Her students, who once dismissed her, now admired her deeply. In the final scene, Yen Komi invited her class to play a game of kick the can, a tradition she cherished. This time, the entire class joined her eagerly, a powerful symbol of the unity and respect she had earned. Watching her students laugh and bond, Yen Komi felt a sense of fulfillment. The story concludes with Yen Komi smiling, knowing she had not only protected her students, but also inspired them to be better individuals. And that's the end of our story. If you enjoyed it, Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. See you in the next video. Until then, Tada and bye-bye.